Well, what we have here is a loaf of sliced bread. Sliced bread, the gold standard in innovation for a long time, as in the greatest thing since sliced bread. But where did sliced bread come from? Let's get on our bikes and find out. Sliced bread was the brainchild of a man named Otto Rohwedder. Otto Rohwedder was born in 1880 in Missouri. He spent his life as a jeweler and an inventor. And there came a time when he decided that he was going to invent sliced bread. He sold all of his jewelry stores and put it all into the development of sliced bread. He had three problems. The first problem was, what size should the slices be? And he came up with a pretty clever idea. He took an ad in several large newspapers, and over the course of 3 or 4 months, he got 30,000 answers. He collated them all and then decided on what the width of his bread would be. His second challenge was how to cut the bread. And what he came up with was the concept of a pair of knives, blades, positioned right against one another, moving in opposite directions, and an entire bank of these things. Think in terms of like an electric knife that you might have for cutting a turkey, how the blades run against one another. His idea was to get a whole bank of these things, set them a correct distance apart, and push the loaf of bread through them. His third challenge was how to keep the loaves fresh, because once air got between the slices, it would get stale pretty quickly. His original approach had been to stick a long thing like a knitting needle through the loaf and try to use that to hold the slices together. It didn't work too well. Then he came up with the idea of modifying his machine so that after the loaf was sliced, it would automatically be wrapped in wax paper, and that did it. And he got a bankrupt baker to give it a try. On July 7th, 1928, the first loaf of sliced bread, successful loaf of sliced bread, was sold in the United States. And of course, the rest is history. Wonder Bread came along and really made it popular. It was banned for a short period of time, about 3 months during World War II, because they thought the wrappings that you needed to use on sliced bread was too thick, but that ban was replaced. I mean, it was a total outcry from housewives who now had to go back to slicing bread by hand. So anyway, that was Otto Rohwedder, a pretty tenacious guy, and he gave us sliced bread, and everything else is the greatest thing since. That's history on a bike. Okay, so that's the story of sliced bread and Otto Rohwedder. Hope you enjoyed this episode of History on a Bike, and sometime soon we'll investigate where flat shoelaces came from. Take care.